TPTSLP, Kara Welke, and the rest of the Next Level team coming to you live for our podcast. We actually have been off for the last 3 weeks. Thanks to these three and the rest of the Next Level team, I was able to take some time off and attend a conference in Amsterdam and then travel through Europe. So it was great to step away from both of my businesses. And now I'm back and getting back into the groove. And Anthony's going to lead us in our podcast discussion today. So, Anthony, go ahead and kick us off.
Awesome. So we're going to start out with something a little bit more impactful here. So listen in. I think you guys will have some great insights. I'm curious to hear what you say. The first question is, how do you know when you're building a business that serves your life instead of a life that serves your business? I'll kind of jump in and just contribute while you guys think about it for a second. For me, and this is obviously when it comes down to systems, right? It's a little bit different. It's really about how does this business give you choices, not just responsibilities, right? How does it affect your life in the sense of it gives you that flexibility versus I have to go out and I have to go do something. I have to go be somewhere. It's given me a lot of convenience in the sense that I can be home. I can be in a situation where if the kiddo is not doing well at school or sick, I can step out and I can go get her, right? So it's helped give me a lot more freedom in that way from a day-to-day, and it's helped me serve my family more than just serving, I guess, somebody else in doing something, giving somebody else that flexibility. So that's, for me, what it's been. Who wants to jump in next?
Yeah, I'd agree completely. That's pretty much what I would have said on that one, because I think knowing that I can, if I'm working, because I do work in my business still, so if I work the morning, I can stop whenever I want, really, and then I can come back to it later if I want to. You know, I'm like usually pretty wiped out by 2:00. I can just be done at 2:00, and then even if I'm not done with my work, I can come back when my brain is fresher. I can be home in times when my dogs don't have too much time without being able to go outside. You know, that flexibility is huge. I think that's probably one of the biggest things.
I mean, 100% agree. The biggest thing I've always said is it allows me to have the flexibility, not necessarily always freedom, time freedom, but time flexibility to do what I want when I can. So, for example, I have 3 kids. They're all growing out of high school now, but my youngest still plays college baseball, and never missed an event because of work. Because when you own your own business, you can make sure you don't miss those events. And, that includes traveling multiple hours, especially now that he's in college ball. But, sometimes we're traveling 5 hours, or we went for 2 weeks to Florida in March. So being able to do that and not miss out on my kids' events has been, number one, I guess, as far as it allows us to do that. And another thing I'd like to add to that is for our home therapy solutions business, that's another big thing for the therapists that work with us, is for them to be able to set their own schedules and have that time flexibility, because I want them to be able to have that freedom to do those things for their kids. So, a lot of them arrange their schedules around after they drop off their kids. They make sure that they can get home or be home in time when their kids get home, or they can attend all their kids' events. So it's not just a business that serves my life, but I also really want to create a situation where it can also serve the life of the therapists that work with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm going to revisit the question in my head, because you guys say what we all feel and think and why we're doing this. And it was kind of, how do you build your business to serve your life and not your life serving your business? I would say if you don't own a business yet, but you think about it, the greatest thing I did right when I started it is I met with a financial advisor who the question was, how much do you want to make someday, Megan, when you retire? And I said to him, it's not how much I want to make. I would like to be able to spend time at that time with my parents while they can still do things. And he goes, I've never had that answer before. And I'm like, so whatever that needs to look like is what I need my business to be. And it truly has morphed into that, because I could make a lot more money personally from my business if I wanted to see more patients. Or kind of like Alicia said, like she's kind of whipped out by two. Like I could push through that as well, or I could fill my schedule and just go. But I choose to be able to go spend time with my family, to take time off, to maybe have space to do things that I help Kara with, because then I can travel and I can coach, or I pick up other things that allow me a little bit of that mobility freedom. Kara can work from Florida if she needs to, but she can be there when her son has a game. And so I think really, whether you're in the middle of a business or you're thinking about doing something on your own, like make sure you answer that question, because it isn't about money for 90% of people. It really isn't. But what I'll say is, once you get into the business, sometimes we see that dollar amount and we don't remember why we got into it. And then we're spiraling into a situation where we're burnt out and we're not well mentally, physically. And so I think this is a great question to start off with, because you really need to sit down and determine your why before you get going, because all of a sudden these things start coming at you and you forget it. And all of a sudden you're in a place where your business is running your life and not the other way around.
100%.
Excellent. Perfect. I love it. I agree. I think, ultimately it's about being able to step away from the business without it, feeling like it's going to fall apart. So setting yourself up in that way, and like systems, I can help you in that way, right? Systems can help us do all that. I don't want to remove, just because Kara's, not necessarily treating in HTS. I'm not here to remove her. It's just, I want to help give her that freedom to focus on being able to do those things that she wants to do and love and, spend time with, instead of having to just be there reacting because she doesn't have to do that. And like you said, it's not always about the money. It's not about how much comes in from this thing and how much more can I get. It's what's going to really make the difference in the end. When the money's all gone, when it's spent, what do you have? What's left? So I love it. Let's transition a little bit here. How do you stay confident during slow seasons? How do you not feel like, you're sinking into quicksand and you're not, everything's going wrong? How do you make sure that you're still making an impact in your own business and making sure that you're doing things that are helpful, even when it feels like there's tumbleweeds flowing around in the office?
Well, I'm just going to step back a little bit. This isn't what I would do or what I'd recommend, but just wanting to share that when I first started the business, I would literally freak out when all of a sudden, like, we had therapists that had openings and we were slow. And then all of a sudden I would just start calling everyone and anyone and so forth. And yeah, that was before, like, I really understood, like, having appropriate systems in place and really having a good understanding of our KPIs and knowing our flow and knowing the season change in our business. But it just brought me back to the moment where, this is probably an example I shouldn't share on a live podcast, but I would just start calling like past clients and and things like that without really checking things. And like some clients weren't around anymore. And then I have to talk to someone and that would not be a great conversation. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So don't panic and do what I did back in the day. It's really good to plan for those situations, have appropriate systems in place, know your numbers so you know what you need to have, have a good marketing plan in place. There's just a lot that goes into it, but I'm interested to hear from also Alicia and Megan what you guys think. And then Anthony, I mean, you help us on the back end to make sure we have, referrals flowing in and a system in order to keep things orderly.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, so I think Kara nails it. We've all done it. We just won't, flaunt it that we've called or been like, I know, I tried to reach you like 7 times in the last week. Like, I don't know why they're not answering. But I think the biggest shift is actually the littlest shift of recognizing what can I control and what can I not. That's been the biggest shift for me. And it's truly a massive shift, but because it will change your entire slow season. Because if what you can control is that you get caught up on your KPIs, or if what I can control is that because they're caught up, I can see the little minute things that aren't going well. I can see that there was way more cancellations, or maybe the therapist wasn't seeing as many patients. Like, you can quickly address the issues, and those are all the things you can control, but we can't control if a doctor calls us back. We can't control if they have a patient for me. Like, it's kind of wild and embarrassing when you say like, oh my gosh, I was like calling all these people and then I went to all these meetings and I was like, give me patients, but you can't control them at all. And so looking at the things you can control that Kara just mentioned are just wildly helpful during that time, because if it's a slow period, it seems like for me over the last probably 1.5 years, I've bounced back out of it much quicker or come up with a plan. And that involves people like Anthony, that involves systems, that involves going, gosh, we need to do better in this area versus just freaking out, because we've actually all done it. So it is just funny to think back of pacing around the kitchen. Like, who could I call next? Where's that number? I think I have an email that has a phone number on it. Not okay. Don't do that. But because you waste a lot of time and then you get very stressed out and you kind of shut down. So, yeah.
And I'll say, to be honest, COVID was my slow time. Like, I really haven't otherwise had a time where I've been worried like that. The pandemic really threw things off. But I also, because I was 75% of my business at that time was in school contracts and school shutdown. So I had to pivot to increase my private clients at that time. And I went and network with insurance and things like that. So again, I took action. I took the action I could take. And I think that's a huge help to your anxiety when that hits, is if you can do something that moves things along, that is helpful. Panic calling usually doesn't work either. But anything that you're panicked to do, is whatever it might be, is generally going to backfire on you anyway. I learned that when I was running groups, and I would get to this position where it was an extra thing. And I really thought I have this group and it's a great group and I want people to sign up for it. But also I don't really want to do it because I'm too busy. But I feel like I should. And I would get this panic hoping people were going to sign up. And that level of energy that you put out there pretty much always it wards all that stuff off. And in general, my attitude in life is that things will work out. So I don't worry too much, to be honest. If there's a little bit of a slowness, I just kind of roll with it. So I try not to panic. I do take action whenever I can. But if you really believe that things will work out, they do. I've never had them not work out. And and there's been struggles. Don't get me wrong. There've been struggles. I just don't focus on the struggles. I focus on the things that are working. And so I think that's a good attitude in life in general. So
one thing I see with current therapists that we work with, though, is they're really scared to take the leap to hire a full-time therapist or even a part-time therapist, because they're not always, I should never say always, because they're afraid that they're not going to have the clients to fill them. And then we see these therapists with, a dozen PRN or part-time staff, and they're having a struggle managing them. And that's an exaggeration, but I do see a fear limiting a lot of therapists with making that move for hiring the staff that they need to really move their business forward. I always said that once I hired full-time, I made dang sure that I was going to have clients for that person, and I was prepared for it. But, that is a fear that I see. I don't know if you guys see that with some of the people that we work with.
I think that's a fear in everything. You look at how many, this is totally off topic, but it completely relates. I see people going, oh my gosh, I need a second, third job because we can't make ends meet right now. And so there's people out like trying to get other jobs when we can just look within our systems, whether it's at your home and your finances, like, do I really need Netflix? Do I really need a coffee? Do I really need this? And when we look at people that are struggling with that fear, oftentimes, if you look within the clients you have, within the plan of cares you have, I'm using this as my own example. Oftentimes we can't see people 2 to 3 times a week like they should be because we're so full that if we hire someone, we need to go back to the table and revisit just what we have. Like, what do we have? We hired a full-time speech therapist in May, and we were full in like 3 weeks because we just revisited our process within versus like, I need to go find all these new clients. So I think you're right, Kara. Even if it's a PT hiring an OT, do you have to find all new clients? No, you have them. You just got to look at how are we going to utilize that. So I think it's such a great point that I think people freak out and want to go find all new things instead of revisiting what they have already at their disposal.
And then adding on, like Anthony, with some of our automations and our follow-up sequence, and having things like that in place help us maintain our current clientele long term. I just had a client call me from the nursing home yesterday. And, you know, I always say a lot of our clients are always long-term clients, or their families, or, you know, with us long-term. But yeah, he called me from the nursing home. He's like, you know, I think they're going to discharge me Thursday. I have to go here, but I would like to start Monday. I'm like, well, who's your social worker? Because, you know, usually they help. He's like, I don't know. Anyways, got everything set up, contacted the social worker, told them the plan. And she's like, oh, well, we really think he needs to be home health and so forth. And then I explained, well, I mean, he is a long-term client. We have everything set up for OT, PT, and the nursing and so forth. So just, again, the value of developing those relationships and having those systems and them knowing they can reach out to you, it's a huge value in the long run.
Yeah, and I'll just finish up there from my perspective of everybody wants to look at it as a problem. A lot of times it's like, why is this happening? Or why isn't this happening? Why aren't I busier? And my challenge to people is, this is what it is. What are you going to do in the meantime? Like, what can you improve while you have the time? Like, this is potentially, let's not look at it as a curse. Let's look at it as a blessing. And what systems can we kind of refine, and what can we do better? What can we document better? What can we improve from a marketing perspective? What relationships and referral sources can you go out and cultivate and strengthen as a result of this? Let's prepare. Let's use this slow time to go prepare for that next busy season. Let's stop looking at it as a setback and start looking at it as a time to invest back in.
And that's where, and Megan, you might want to pop in, Alicia, that's where you also need to train your employees, your staff, your PTOT speech. You know, if their schedule all of a sudden collapses 1 week because of a lot of cancellations, we can't panic, but these are all the things you can do. I'm always amazed when, you know, therapists are concerned about all their cancellations, or they have all these openings. And then I look and I'm like, you haven't even done any of your compliance trainings for the year. Take some of this free time and get caught up on this, you know, or use this time to go out and do some of those marketing meetings, or you can help build this program. You know, it's not just us as business owners, but we also got to work with our staff that we have as well, what they can better do to utilize their times during slow times.
Awesome. Anything else there? Any other comments there?
I'll just add one more thing. I think it's also, just to jump on the opportunity aspect of it that you said, Anthony, I think sometimes it's a good time to reflect on your business as well and say, what do I want from my business, and reset your goals. And maybe that guides whatever actions. So maybe there's a new program that you want to start in your business, or something else that you want to offer. This could be a good time to set that up and start doing some marketing, because a lot of those if you're wanting some like cash-based services on top of whatever you're already doing, that's maybe insurance-based, for example, sometimes that's like starting a whole nother business because it's a whole different level of marketing. And so maybe this is the time to do that. And maybe it's going to be a little tight for a bit if you do decide to do something like that. But you can reflect on all that. If you look at your numbers and figure out if this is doable while you're slow anyway, it might pay off in the long run. So.
Awesome. All right. We're going to shift gears a little bit more. This is kind of along the same vein here, but it's more so in the business, right? What's the difference between being busy and building momentum? And that can be kind of like, what does that even mean? I think of it, and this is kind of, again, maybe from a system side, just being busy just means I'm doing things, I'm checking things off of the to-do list, let's say. Momentum comes from we're actually improving the way that things function, improving the business so that tomorrow we don't have to necessarily do that same thing again, right? It becomes easier than what we're currently doing. And it's kind of like therapy in the sense of, are we treating the symptoms of this? Are we just kind of putting a Band-Aid on something? Are we addressing the root cause of this? Are we actually working on fixing it for good in a way? And obviously I know therapy, we're not there to necessarily cure, but how can we help shift our mindset to not just being busy versus solving those root cause issues of, I constantly answer this question. Like, what can we do about that? So that's the question for you guys is, what's the difference between just being busy in therapy and actually building momentum and growing and having a larger impact on the community, in your life, in your employee's life?
This makes me think back to, it's been several years now that I was in this mastermind program with other business owners, and there were other business owners. You had to have like a certain income level, and like they weren't healthcare. I think there was maybe 2 of us in healthcare. But our coach talked about how so many people are really busy doing a bunch of nothing, and they're getting nowhere, and they're not able to build momentum because they don't truly know what their final destination is or what they want. And so they're kind of chasing all of these things around and chasing it versus knowing their final destination. And when an opportunity or a task or something comes up, they look at it and say, 1, do I need to do this? Is this going to get me to my end goal? Or is this just something else or another shiny object or whatever? And so he had like the person over here. Then on the right side, he had the final destination of where you really want to be. And then he talked about the people that aren't able to delegate. They're not saying no to the appropriate things. They're not organizing their task of, according to like urgent and important versus non-important, non-urgent, things like that. They're all over the place, and it takes them a heck of a long time to ever get here to their final destination. And maybe they don't ever get there, versus the person who knows their final destination and takes each task by saying, okay, is this going to get me to where I actually need to be? Yes. Okay. Then move forward. No. Okay. I'm not going to do it because it's not leading me there. Anyways, we did a lot of work within that mindset, and that really helped me shift and move my practice forward and build momentum. And actually, when I look back at my growth trajectory and so forth, it was, after learning the power of delegation, learning the power of saying no, stop. I mean, I still do a lot of things I shouldn't do, but stopping doing a lot of the things that I shouldn't do. I mean, I have actually decreased it. I mean, I know anyone listening is probably like, she's lying. But anyways, once I did try to focus a little bit more, you can actually see in our growth trajectory that that's when our business really took off. And when I added more staff and our income really started to grow, and we gained that momentum, because before then I was literally trying to do anything and everything myself and had no clear path. It's a long answer to your question, Anthony.
No, I think that's great. Megan, anything?
Don't ask me about the last month because I was just simply busy. And that's not just your fault, Kara. It's partially Kara's fault. My admin was also out of the country for 3 weeks. And so there was just a lot of busy. But the truth is, I think when you talk about hiring employees and not just therapists, like you've talked, there's so many people that we coach that it's like, you just need a VA. You need somebody to help you. And that's like, I don't know if I can afford it. You can, because again, you've bottlenecked yourself, and then mentally you bottleneck yourself because the growth opportunities might be there, but you can't attend them because it might be a meeting or a event or whatever, or you don't even see it standing right in front of you because you're just exhausted. Like you're just utterly exhausted. There are points in life. Kara made a great point of like, going all over the place and delegating, or even looking at what's urgent and I need to get done right now. I have actually been very good at that, but then it's funny when I think that it's important but not urgent, and then it's somehow I get told it's due tomorrow or the next day, and I'm like, oh crud, I guess I do have to get that done. Ugh, that's happened a lot this last like 2 or 3 weeks, so it's made itself urgent. But that is a great way to process, because once you get through that really busy time, if you have a plan, you're going to have busy times. You're going to have times where you're not sleeping or you got to work more. But then when you come out of it, it's really easy to get back into the, hey, I can say no to this. I don't need to complete this task. You're always going to have ebbs and flows with vacations or turnover. Turnover just naturally happens. And all of a sudden you're like, shoot. Like for me, I haven't had to call patients or our wait list in like 2 years. And I had to do that the last 3 weeks. And I was like, I kind of forgot how to do this and how to schedule it into my day. But then I'm offloading it again, right? So you know how to get back to building momentum. So I think there's a big thing with what Kara said, learn the process of it, because when you do get busy, you don't just stay chaotic and bouncing all over. You can know what to delegate, know what you don't need on your plate, and then hire or replace that position or whatever. And it helps you, I think, with Kara bringing up, it helps you identify much faster which role you need first. Like maybe you thought it was a therapist, but then you're like, wait, nope. After I had to do, like for me, knowing that I had to do all this calling and stuff, I'm like, definitely need an admin or definitely need this in place before I focus on the other momentum building areas, because it's not going to help those systems grow if I don't have control foundationally.
And I just want to add to what Kara said. I think you both covered it pretty well, but I think the same thing. But the having the goal is so important, and you're not building momentum to anything if you don't know what you're going towards. So if you don't know what your goals are, then it doesn't matter how you're spending your time. It's all busy work. But to add to that too, I think time blocking is huge, or just time tracking. If you just spend like 1 week tracking your time and seeing all those things that you do that you don't even realize is just busy, that you could delegate to someone else, then sometimes people don't even know what those are. And so they are busy doing all this stuff because they don't realize someone else can actually do it or what they're actually spending their time on. And so you're not going to be building momentum if you don't even know what you're really spending your time on. And I think that's a huge thing. Not that you have to do it all the time, but certainly a time check once in a while is a really good idea. And just write down everything you're doing for your business that day, maybe for a week, and see what changes you might need to make so that you can start building momentum.
Yeah, time audits are huge. One last thing I want to throw in from a coach perspective with therapists that I see is the therapists that really struggle to build momentum are the ones that really struggle to stay focused. And they might have a goal, like this is the business they want to build, but this opportunity comes along and they just can't say no. And they're like, well, we're just going to do this for a short time because we need the added money. Well, doing that may give you some added money now, but it's now taking all of your time, money, energy away from getting you to your goal. So I just think the lack of focus, lack of clarity really distracts people from gaining momentum, and they're just busy doing busy work and so forth. So I see that with our therapists when we look at the ones that are really building momentum versus the ones that are not.
Yeah, that is so common. I think, and one of the reasons to have a coach, because people know, lots of times people really know the answer, like that they maybe shouldn't be doing this, or that in their gut, but they're like, this just sounds so great. And to have somebody give them a reality check is really helpful. We all need that, really,
And sometimes, one of my coaches back in the day was like, Kara, you shouldn't do this. It has no purpose in what your ultimate goals are. You literally shouldn't do it. But do you think I listened? No. I learned the hard way. So sometimes you do have to learn the hard way. But if you keep doing it and you keep not listening and you keep not building momentum, you do need to really take a step aside and look at what are your goals and where are you at and why aren't you meeting them and so forth. So
awesome. Yeah, just being busy is not gonna be what you want in the long run. You've got to think beyond that. It's not just about checking things off. It's about, again, creating processes that you can go out and actually reduce that friction completely from happening. So cool. I think we're at time there, Kara. Do we have time for one more? Is that time?
We're at time for today. So good discussion. A lot of different things that we covered. So if you guys have thoughts, ideas, questions, or things you guys want us to address, feel free to reach out. We also have a lot of resources on our YouTube channel, in our Facebook group, in our website. So make sure you guys check those out between podcasts. But otherwise, we'll be back here next Tuesday at the same time. So thank you, Anthony, Alicia, and Megan, and those of you that tuned in. Do us a favor and comment live if you're watching on our live on Facebook, or help share the podcast. We'd appreciate it. You guys all have a great rest of your day.